Hello and welcome to the Undercut podcast. I'm your host, Thiemo Daily, and we're back to preview the 20th round of the 2025 Formula One season, the Mexican Grand Prix. Joining me to preview the Mexican Grand Prix is sports journalist and co-founder of the Paddock, Sabrina Bonini. Welcome to the podcast. How are you?
I'm very good. Thank you for having me.
Our pleasure. We're also joined by Motorsport presenter Katie Jeromson. Welcome as well to the podcast. How are you?
Yeah, I'm very well. Thank you. Again, thank you for having me.
My pleasure as well. So, first question I want to ask you both before we dive into Mexico. What have you made of the season so far? How are we already at round 20, but also how are we only at round 20?
I mean, it has felt like the both shortest and longest season ever, I think. I mean, I know we're at the longest season we've ever had with the 24 races, but the McLaren Constructors win has just felt inevitable. So that's just kind of always felt like it's happened. But then, I mean, this second half, right? It's Max Verstappen on the charts coming like Jaws for that championship. It's felt like a whole new season, kind of this latter part. So really, really exciting. But yeah, a bit of a bizarre one is what it feels like to me.
Yeah, it feels like we were promised kind of 2021 style championship, but with 5 or 6 different drivers in it. And then we didn't get that at all. And yet we've somehow got something where it's the same as we've got the last few years. And yet we don't mind it because we somehow weren't expecting it this time, and we all don't know what to do with that now.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, we were joking, right, about Max Verstappen actually being able to come for this championship, and suddenly it's quite the reality.
Verstappen was saying if you'd called it earlier in the year that I was going to win, you'd have been an idiot. So even he wasn't thinking the same thing.
Exactly. So not even him thought that this could happen. And I think we all started the season thinking that McLaren, was going to be leading all the time. We saw it like they were leading, and suddenly, I don't know what happened in summer, but they came back not great.
Change in
Yeah,
leadership, perhaps.
Maybe.
we were talking about this in our Texas review and going, it's so staggering. The maths makes sense and yet makes no sense at all that you can have such a dominant constructors win, and yet somehow the team with essentially one driver is to go to beat both of those drivers that have helped do such a dominant win. It doesn't quite compute, and yet because it's Verstappen, of course, it somehow also makes sense. It's a very bizarre one, but we'll just have to see what happens this weekend. He's going to be pretty strong here if history has anything to go by, but we'll get to that later. We've got a little bit of news before we dive more into Mexico, but we will kick off with Mexico itself because FP1 here is an occasion where we, for some reason, see a ton of drivers in FP1. And so I'll simply list them off and then we'll have a little talk about them. We've got Luke Browning and Williams with Carlos Sainz, Arvid Lindblad replacing Verstappen at Red Bull, Antonio Fuoco replacing Hamilton at Ferrari, rather interestingly. Paul Aron in for Gasly at Alpine, Rio Hirakawa in at Haas for Ollie Behrman, Pat Crawford replacing Stroll at Aston Martin, Yuma Iwasa replacing Liam Lawson at Racing Bulls, and Pato Ward in McLaren. No word yet, weirdly, on which one of the two drivers he's replacing. Not sure why they're keeping them on that one. Maybe that's part of the consequences that Lando's having, and he's going to have to sit out FP1. Of those drivers, Sabrina, which 1, 2, 3, how many of them are you most interested in seeing in FP1?
I really like Arvid. I don't know what it is, but I think he's got something interesting. So definitely him. Also Pato, because I'm Spanish and anyone Latin or Spanish I support. And it's going to be interesting as well because of the vibe there. And then I also like Paul. Paul Aron is quite interesting. It's also interesting with Alpine and Franco. We don't know what's going to happen. So that's probably something to have an eye on for the coming news. So yeah, those are my names.
Definitely agree with kind of like Paul Aron and Arvid Lindblad there, because obviously they're the ones that are in contention for seats. So I think they're the ones that really all those eyes are going to be on. I'm actually really interested to see Luke Browning as well. He wasn't someone I knew masses about, and then I went to Silverstone this year, and in the rain, he did a phenomenal drive in the rain in that F2 race. So he's kind of like on my radar now to see what he could do. So yeah, be great to see if he can put in a good performance for Williams and get that car going as well, because there's definitely something in that car. We're seeing it with both the drivers, so I think actually having a rookie in there will really show you if it's the experience of those true drivers or if Williams have actually managed to really unlock something with that car.
Yeah, the awkward thing then potentially of how much, if you're science, you want him to unlock. So I don't know what you were struggling with at the first half of this season. That's really easy to drive. But yeah, Paul Aaron for me is the interesting one, Alpine, for reasons you both said, essentially. Especially if he's replacing Gasly and not Colopinto, they can compare them directly against one another. At track, admittedly, they've not been to, but one has significantly more experience than the other. I think Iwasa is the other one that interests me, because I admit, despite typing in about Lindblad when I was writing these show notes, I completely forgot about him when I was looking at the list earlier, and how much of an obvious contender he is for that racing board seat next year. And I was just thinking, let's not forget about Iwasa, as most people have. He is in the background quite a lot of the time, and he's also, I think, the only other driver really in contention for that racing board seat for when one of the that is Lawson Hadjar inevitably goes up to replace Sonoda for next year. He's doing all right in Super Formula at the moment, and yeah, he seems to have been shuffled off the side a little bit, but he's still in with a shot at the title there. And don't forget, that's where Liam Lawson had been hanging out before he came over to the F1 this year. So if he can beat Lindblad in the Red Bull in timing stages, then at least we'll have something to talk about at the very least while they try and make up their mind about it all. That's that on that front. But we do have some interesting news in the world of Formula 2, which admittedly we have known for a while, but not in as many specifics as we'd have liked to, which was that Colton Herta is now definitely officially joining Formula 2, but with Hitech TGR. And this was let slip for simply months ago now when it was first announced to with joining Paddock as their F1 test driver. 25 years old. He's a little bit like Luke Browning in that I feel like he's been around for so long you forget that he can somehow still only be in his early to mid-20s. It doesn't quite compute. He's had 7 full seasons in IndyCar, best result of Q2 overall in 2024. He just picked Will Power to that place by winning the final race of the year in Nashville. He's never really in the championship fight that year, but he's always been around for the most part. Admittedly, in that particular race, he was helped a lot by Will Power having a bizarre issue with his seatbelt not fastening, which on an oval you don't really want. But yeah, 9 wins, 19 podiums, 16 pole positions. It's not a bad record to have. He also finished in 3rd back in 2015 behind Lando Norris in what was essentially British F4 then, but the MSA Formula Championship, it was known back then, in funky times where we had all kinds of bizarre names for feeder series. And going into next season, have 34 points on his super license, meaning he only needs to score 6 in order to get into F1 potentially in 2027. So in terms of where he needs to finish in the championship, P8 or better overall is good enough. And while we would hope that he would finish higher than P8, considering the caliber of driver he's supposed to be, that would, I suppose, Katie, give him a bit less pressure to adapt. And if he doesn't get off the ground running when the season gets going, it's not the end of the world.
It's a bit of a funny one. Will Buxton has said, like, this is such a big risk going in at F2 because it's a different feel in the car, completely different like tyres, which from the outside you might think, okay, well, a tyre's a tyre, but they've got such a different kind of like feel behind them for the drivers when they're that close with the car. So I think it is a risk to be coming in at F2 at this level, because if it doesn't work, this could tank his real F1 dreams. Yeah. So whether I would have perhaps, if I was in their position, tried to do something a little bit more under the radar first, but you don't know what kind of like PTO testing or anything like that they're doing. But yeah, I think this is a risk. I don't really know too much about him. I'm not so much in the indie world. So it's it's an exciting, a little bit of an outsider, a little bit of a rogue one, but excited to see what comes of it.
Yeah, it's even more of a risk in some ways because I am bringing it into IndyCar and he didn't have a great season this year either. He was only seventh overall with only 2 podium finishes and a single pole position. And I'm sure Sabrina won't mind that I do a shameless plug for my new analysis piece on the Paddock Chronicle here, where I take a little bit of a look at details as to why he signed with Hitech. I mean, they've done pretty well this year. They're P2 at the moment and within, I think, 12 points in first place, so good win in team standings. And you're saying about maybe they could have tried getting the Ravens. There's a long history of them trying to get in private tests, to get in at Red Bull, to get in at McLaren, to get in at Sauber. And the FIA has been there every single time going, no, essentially. And yeah, I think this is somehow now the weird box he's been cornered into. And it might not just be his F1 future at risk to be. If he doesn't have a good year next year, he might not even have a seat in IndyCar if he does really badly. So it's all or nothing.
Yeah, agreed. I don't have much more to add to what you said. You both said, but yeah, I think it is indeed a risk. But again, there are drivers. If they don't risk when they have the opportunity, what are we talking about? So I think he's doing good, taking this chance. I'm sure he will give everything he has, and we will have to wait and see what he's doing, what he's capable of. And then if he's really good, we will have to see what chances he gets anyway for F1, because we already have a lot of rookies that are really good. But that could change as well. So more seats could be available. So it's interesting to get someone like him in Formula 2. I think it's going to be very interesting to see.
It would be amusing if after all of that, he then doesn't race with Cadillac in 27, but he's with another team completely and he's doing some kind of Infinity Stone style collecting how many F1 teams can be associated with before actually get the proper seat in the sport. But I'll keep it with you, Sabrina, because you quite like the next news. There's uncompletion I do as well, actually. But a couple of new drivers announced for the Formula E women's test. Alice Powell's back with Vision, and a particular favourite of ours is also back with Andretti Antonelli and Marti. Happy to see them both back.
Yeah, we've got a few. We've got Bianca Bustamante with Cooper Kiro. We've got Abby Pulling.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's brilliant that they do this. Just giving that kind of exposure. We know motorsport is so competitive, so the chance to actually kind of just get this exposure and this time in cars. And again, we're talking about the feel of different cars. I've gone from driving a petrol to an electric car now, and it's so different in feel. So I can't even imagine what it's like for a racing driver. So to actually just get them that experience and open the door, it's about getting that. We want to get to equality, but we need to have that equity first. And, Formula E is so brilliant for leading things like this. I'm all for it.
Yeah, agreed. I think they're doing a great job. And I think this is really good opportunity to keep growing, to have a chance to be, in a team. Because, for example, from last year, some of the drivers that tested are actually doing some work for the teams, like Abby, for example, or I don't know if Marta as well, but there were a couple of 3 drivers that are already doing things. So I think this is great. And for example, Nerea also actually drove with the electric boats, the E1, recently, in a couple of races, I think in different teams. And you say, well, that's boats, right? But what does that have to do? But it's racing in the end. It's very fast racing. And in the end, they're drivers that want to race. And it's super interesting to have all these different categories. I keep laughing I'm a content creator as well. And sometimes I get some people commenting things. And it's funny when for example, you say something about Formula E and they're like, oh, this is, these electric cars, this is not racing, this is ridiculous. I'm like, this is another kind of racing. And it's pretty interesting and different. Of course, it's not Formula One. That's why we have Formula One and we have Formula E, and it's different. So I think this is great. It's a great chance for more women to be involved, for them to grow as well, to learn more things, and have opportunities in a category that is giving them or is starting to try to give them, rather than others that are not really there yet. like, I don't know, Formula 3, Formula 2 is more complicated to get there. So I think this is great, and it's great that they continue doing it, and it's just once, and then they forget. I think this is gonna keep going, and it's gonna keep growing as well.
I think that is the one thing that frustrates me a little bit with it, is that while I'm all there for the testing, I still very much go, yeah, at what point can you put one of them in the car? Because whether that's how, like you say, there's some drivers there where they've got a good history of the team, and she's essentially a development driver for them now. Even I'm not sure if it's official or not, I'm wrong, but she's, for all intents and purposes, a development driver for that team, so it makes sense to keep putting her in there. But someone like Neri Amati, who's a fair bit younger, a fair bit earlier in her career, but has still managed to get a vast amount of experience. I mean, you mentioned that you won votes. Yeah, it's votes, but she's with Timmy Hansen, who's a World Rallycross legend, and the stuff she can learn from him, just both for votes and just general racing tips that he could give her, is so kind of fundamentally useful that you wonder why no one is taking a chance. Not that it even would be much of one, because she's proven herself plenty of times already to stick her in a seat full time next season. And I was hitting at the graphic today when they announced that they've got the full grid for next year. I'm going, not quite the way I wanted it, but try again next year, I suppose. But yeah, at least we're getting the testing, at least they're getting the exposure, and that's more that can be said for other series. That's a bit like that.
I think it's more likely that we'll see it in Formula E, and Formula E is obviously proving that it is being seen more and more as a really viable route to go to when, as you were saying earlier, like there's so many good rookies in F1 now. It's more and more difficult. So actually, it's showing that it is a good route. We had oh gosh, what's his name? Can't remember now. But we've got Pepe Marti obviously going. Oh, I'm trying to think of his name now. He's from Barbados. I interviewed him.
Zane Maloney.
Zane Maloney, that's it. So obviously he decided to take that leap, and it's rather than perhaps sitting as a reserve driver for a few years for an F1 team and hoping that you get that chance and some new wonder kid doesn't come onto the block. It's like you said, it's getting that racecraft in. So I think it's going to start being seen as a better and better option to actually go to Formula E, and hopefully we'll see more of that.
So if you're looking to try and establish yourself in another series, definitely go there rather than Indy next, because the last 2 years we've had drivers come in, and all the other drivers must be so annoyed because they've just dominated like no one's business, and all the other really good drivers they look like nothing in comparison. You go, they're actually pretty good, but you've got no chance against someone like Dennis Hauger or Louis Foster. So at least in Formula E, it seems that no one's run away with it for the last few years. I don't feel like there's ever been that. You've always had it going down to the wire a lot of the time, I think. But you segued it perfectly into the next bit of news I had there, Katie. You've used the news that Pepe Marti is taking that leap into Formula E from Formula 2, racing for Hero. And yeah, it's going to be interesting because, like you say, being you there as a reserve driver on the sidelines, not racing with the Felipe Drugovich route, as it were, and then in his end up in Formula E anyway, hoping that Stroll will leave at some point, or in the case of Red Bull, they'll cycle through enough drivers that you'll finally get to the queue. Where they decided I'm maybe going to take it into my own hands and let's see what happens. And Sabrina, you're definitely happy about this because at least he's going to be somewhere next year.
I am, because I really like Pepe. I think he's really good. And, being in Red Bull with how they manage things with drivers and obviously with other drivers that are inside Red Bull, they think they are, better suited, like Arvid, for example, which he's amazing. But, I think he's done well, because what was the alternative? Stay again in Formula 2? And then what? And then sort of like keep doing that. So I actually read today or yesterday that Alonso actually kind of helped the move towards Formula E, because he was seeing that he was going to get stuck in Formula 2 and not be able to to move up. And so I think it's a great opportunity. I really like Formula E. Is growing a lot. It is very different racing, but it's racing, in the end, and it's the driver needs to keep doing things, because otherwise they will just get forgotten, because there's a lot of really good rookies right now. So the earlier he can get into something else that he might enjoy and be really good at, and then from there you never know. Maybe in the future he can come back to F1. You don't know, but I think he's done great. I'm really excited as well that he's with Cupra, which is sort of like as well very Spanish, very Barcelonian related brand. So it's great, and also they are racing in Madrid next year as well. So that's also good because the fans will go and support Pepe. So it's also good for the series, I think. So I'm really excited. I was a bit scared that he was not going to be doing anything, because I knew that he was not going to go to F1 with the situation that we have. And I wasn't sure that staying in Formula 2 was a possibility or really good. So when I saw that, I was like, yes, Pepe. I like it.
Yeah. I think like you say, it's good to be somewhere different as well, because while it is still single seater racing, if Katie's noticing the difference between an electric car and a petrol car just going about daily business, then there's definitely going to be a big difference in single seater electric to Formula 2 non-electric. And it's another way to hone the skills, keep yourself relevant, try and make a name for yourself in a different way. And you're still on the scene, because I think Liam Lawson is weirdly the motivational, inspirational figure for people like Pepe, in that he was in Formula 2, and then I can't even remember off the top of my head when that was. It feels like so long ago, because he then came into F1 briefly, was out of F1, and then he's on the sidelines, then he's back in F1, but then he's in Super Formula, and you think, wow, is he ever going to get a chance? And he did, and okay, we went through a heck of a roller coaster to get to where we are now in terms of him being here, but at least he's getting that full season, one way or another, in the sport. And if you're Pepe, you're going, it might take a bit longer than I would have liked, but you can never say never. And I'm told that Rogovic is also a driver who's in Formula E next year, thinking along similar lines, going, please let this be a pathway for me at some point.
He's always the one I think of, Drogovic, that's sat on the sidelines waiting.
Yes,
I think many of us have our opinions on Lance Stroll and if he should be in that seat.
Indeed.
13 Q1 exits, more than even any of the rookies so far in qualifying.
I think there's only one person that wants him there, just the one, which is another Stroll. So
it just must be so frustrating to sit and watch that, and at least if you're racing in the series, you're behind the seat of a car, right? Because at the end of the day, you're a racing driver, and that's what you want to be doing.
I do wonder if Verstappen, Alonso, and Gasly all have coupons for massages for people on their backs and been carrying their teams this year almost single-handedly. So it's and again, you say we've all got opinions about Stroll. I was simply going to say, just look at the move he attempted to make that was never on in the sprint race last weekend in Texas, and I think if you're Drogovic, you're going, come on, what have I got to do to at least earn a chance here? Come on. But yeah. We have a couple of other bits of Formula 2 driving news as well, fresh off the press today, which is that Dino Beganovic going to be racing for Dan Lucas Oil next year, and Joshua Dirksen is going to be driving for Invicta, who have been in on almighty and charged in the last couple of seasons and are potentially also going to win the championship this year. Got to fight Hitech for that one. So Dirksen in particular, he's impressed a lot. He was a driver where I didn't have a negative opinion, let's say, but I didn't really have any opinion on him when he first came in. He's just been a pleasant surprise being able to drag that AIX car into places that it, to borrow a phrase that Zach Brown regrets saying, had no right to be there. And he's gone from strength to strength. So to see him in and potentially pop the machinery next year is going to be very exciting. And Beganovic as well, another driver where he feels like he should be a lot older than he actually is, because I just feel like we've known about him for at least 10 years, and so he should be at least 40. But he's only probably 23 at most. So it'll be interesting to see what he can do next year as well. It's somehow only his second full season in Formula 2, despite being near on those age. So I'll be interested to see how they both get on.
My only thought on this is I'm really happy about the move of Dirksen, because again, LATAM, we are having more and more, and it's great for Spanish speakers.
You don't get any for about 20 years and they'll turn up in the same year.
And then suddenly we have so many. So I'm super happy. But I really like him. I think he has a lot of potential. And being in Invicta, who is a team that is, like doing amazing. I think next year is going to be exciting to see him in that team and that car. So yeah, it's great news.
We'll slide on into Mexico then, and perhaps unsurprisingly, Nick Verstappen is the most successful driver here, having won 5 times. The next few drivers to hold even sort of candle to him are, interestingly, Jim Clark, who had 3 victories, Morton and Prost with 2 victories apiece. But my question for you two is, which engine manufacturer is the most successful in Mexico for the Mexican Grand Prix? Do you know?
Not. I haven't even got a finger in the air guess.
No idea.
It's all on you, Sabrina.
It's all on me.
People's thrown in the right towel immediately.
I don't know. I have no clue. Honda.
Correct.
Yeah.
I am impressed.
Okay, it was a little bit like.
Well, Honda are the most successful engine manufacturer, which bodes well potentially for Aston Martin next year, especially if you're Fernando Alonso, because you're thinking, please, at least give me 1 Grand Prix win next year if I'm going for a title run. And then the less surprising fact I have is that Red Bull are obviously the most successful constructor because of Verstappen. That does lead us nicely, though, into our predictions for the weekend. So, Sabrina, I'll come to you first. Who are you predicting for pole position? I'll give you a bit of time to think.
So I'm predicting, I think, Leclerc. I think Ferrari might be good. Last year they were quite good. And he's doing better than his teammates, so I'll say Leclerc.
Jesse, who is regular podcast co-host with me, has gone for the Route 1 Oscar Piastri route, which I would have agreed with, but I'm nervous for him, so I've gone for Max Verstappen instead because he doesn't seem blockable at the moment. I like that we've all gone different. Are you going to disagree with any of us, Katie, and go completely differently, or are you going to agree with one of us?
I'm agreeing with you. I said he's like Jaws. He's coming. I'm going with Max.
Yeah, it was frustrating reading the fact about the Mexican Grand Prix. I didn't realize he was that successful. I've kind of forgotten because not much seems to happen at the Mexican Grand Prix, so it's not as immediately drawn up in the mind. And then you go, oh yeah, that's because Max just keeps winning it every year, pretty much. So yeah, he's looking pretty unbeatable. Podium wise, we've gone down a similar path to who we're saying is going to win, which is again Max Verstappen, perhaps unsurprisingly. Look, Piastri in second and Russell in third. And Jesse is sticking with his Piastri converting pole to a win with Verstappen in second, and also interestingly Russell in third. Sabrina, you've gone a bit differently again.
Yeah, Verstappen wins because he's coming, definitely. But I'm putting Leclerc second. And then Norris, because I think he's waking up and Piastri is going to sleep. So, yeah, I see him more closer to the podium than Piastri.
The only problem I have with your prediction is that once again, you're going to have a Verstappen converting a Leclerc pole more than Leclerc converts a Leclerc pole to win ratio. So, yet another case of that happening, potentially, unfortunately. Katie, I misread what you'd written there, but I'm going to assume you're sticking with Verstappen for a win as well.
Verstappen is absolutely going for the win. I'm going to follow it up with a Piastri, then Norris, though. I do agree. It seems like, Piastri hasn't been there. But I think he's the comeback guy, right? He can get his head in the right position and go for it. So I also think that's going to be the most interesting order for the championship for things to finish in. So I'll manifest that one.
Yeah, it's the thing, right? It's going to be interesting to see how that plays out because he's still obviously leading the championship, so he doesn't need to win. I mean, it would be a lot easier if he did for his own sake and for some of our sakes as well, so we don't pull our hair out potentially. But yeah, I could see Verstappen getting ahead of one of those McLarens, if not both of them, by the end of the season. So you manifest away and ruin all of the confetti. Rena,
I feel like I should say I want Piastri to win the championship. Now I do want Piastri to win.
What I wonder what margins we're going to get. It's going to be very. Abu Dhabi might actually be interesting for a change by the time we get there. Fastest lap. I'm going to go with Charles Leclerc just 'cause I think he's going to be in a bit of no man's land, and there's no point in admittedly for him if he gets it, but he will just have so much space in front of and behind him that he is going to go hit me for some softs. Don't screw it up like Spa 22 and let me get out there and get the fastest lap. This has gone down a similar route. He put the other Ferrari in of Lewis Hamilton, potentially thinking the same logic really, because he's been close for so nowhere near close to anyone else for a while, so he might just get content with fastest lap. Rena,
I'm gonna go with Verstappen because I think he's going for everything, and he can do it. So yeah, I trust him.
Katie, I'm suspecting maybe a Fernando Alonso or Pierre Gasly prediction from you, or are you sticking Mexican?
I'm gonna go rogue, but not that rogue. I'm gonna go for Lando Norris. I think there'll be a chase on at some point. He'll be going for it, but as I said, I just don't think he's quite gonna get there.
Not quite, yeah. Wild prediction. I like where Sabrina's been going with this. She's not been here before, but she's understood the assignment perfectly here. So we'll go with your wild prediction first. What do you think? I mean, this is
okay.
for reference, Katie. You don't have to have this in line with any of the rest. That is the point. It can be as left field as you want it to be. As not saying that yours is that left field, Sabrina, but I'm just saying it's more on that hill.
Okay, so I'm going with, you know how last year Sainz won here.
You have a vague recollection of that, yeah.
Yeah, so he's going to win again with his Williams because he's doing, he's got 2 podiums, well, sprints.
1.5.
1.5. But the guy is there, the car is there, so yes, Sainz winning.
That would be ballsy, and I kind of regret letting you go first now because the other 2 that we've got so far on the board don't maybe look as wild in comparison, but he's definitely not gone for the wildest of predictions. He's just said that 4 of the FP1 drivers are quicker than their full-time driver across the garage. And just scrolling back up to have a look who some of the drivers are replacing, considering that the replacements are going to be, well, at least one of them is Stroll, so that's already 1-0 surely. So he's just going to have 3 drivers basically to help him get that one. So I don't know how wild that one really is. I've gone wild this season. I've suggested a Ferrari 1-2. I'm going to be a little vague on which order because I'll just be grateful it happens. For the same reason that you were putting some of this on Ferrari earlier, Sabrina, and that they were good last year, so it's got to happen at some point, right? Katie, where are you going with it?
I'm going to go for Max Verstappen and one of the McLarens take each other out, and we get a DNF on each side of the garage and absolute chaos in the championship. Because wouldn't that be brilliant? But I would love a Ferrari 1-2. So if one were going to happen, I think that's I'd want.
I'm just looking at that prediction and thinking George Russell would love that, but he's still mathematically there, and he'll take every chance he can get to get a little bit closer just to go, I was in it just until the end before I got booted out of it. Yeah, I mean, I think if we get any of our suggestions, there will be in for an interesting weekend. And I was about to say, in theory, they could all happen, but I'll negotiate with Sabrina and settle for P3 for Sainz so I can get the Ferrari 1-2. Then everyone's happy.
I think there wouldn't be anyone that's not happy with that podium.
See, there we go. Everyone's happy. We've got a quorum. That is all we've got time for on this episode. We've been previewing the Mexican Grand Prix. In the meantime, though, if people want to see a bit more of you elsewhere, Sabrina, where can they find you?
Yes, so they can find me at the Paddock Chronicle, where we're writing about this beautiful sport and the feeders and F1 Academy. And also on my personal account is sabrinabonini.f1. It's in Spanish, so but hey, Instagram now has
translation features,
and all of that. So yeah, so that's where you can
and to be fair, some of your recent ones you've not needed to know what you were saying to understand what was going on. You've got great facial range with your reaction.
Yes, indeed.
Katie, what about you?
So you can find me on TikTok and Instagram, KTJ_motorsport, and very much all about doing explainers, news and stuff that's going on. Want to make sure that we make motorsport as accessible to all fans as possible. So that's the sort of content you can find.
As for myself, you can find United States Grand Prix Weekend Grand Prix and the African People Colton Herta over on the Chronicle. And elsewhere, I've got an interview out at the moment with Greenville Champions, and by the time that you listen to this, another interview out with Aurora and Lucy that'll both be on my Instagram account. Details for all three of us will be in the description of this episode, so you won't need to go far to find all of us. That's always all we've got time for, though, on this week's episode. I'll be back next week with someone or other to review the Mexican Grand Prix. I will see you then. Thank you for listening. Goodbye.